Hello everyone, I am Tanya Pandey and you're watching Courts This Week on Live Law. Let's go over the top judgments of the week gone by. The Supreme Court has lifted the extension of the limitation period for filing of cases granted by the court in March last year on account of COVID-19 pandemic and the national lockdown. A bench headed by the Chief Justice of India had passed this order suo motu, taking note of the difficulties posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The bench had also passed an order in July 2020 allowing the service of notice through WhatsApp and other online messenger services. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud has remarked, and I quote, "One of the problems of the computer age is copying and pasting of orders. I am fed up of seeing cut copy paste orders of high courts. Independent reasons have to be cited for affirming an order. There has to be an independent application of the mind," unquote. The bench was considering the UPSC's SLP arising out of an Orissa High Court decision upholding the order of the Cat Cuttack bench on the issue whether the respondent could be denied a place in the IAS owing to a disciplinary penalty imposed in 2011. Justices Chandrachud and M.R. Shah noted that it is the UPSC rules under Article 320 and not the DOPT guidelines which would hold forth in the matter and set aside the High Court order restoring the plea before the High Court. The Supreme Court has observed that the amendments to Sections 11 Clause 7 and 37 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 might be necessary so that the orders passed under Sections 8 and 11 are brought on par as far as appealability is concerned. As per the judgment dated December 14, 2020 of the Supreme Court in Vidya Drolia v. Durga Trading Corporation, courts have to enter a prima facie satisfaction under both Sections 8 and 11 regarding the existence of a valid arbitration agreement. While a finding against the existence of arbitration agreement under Section 8 is appealable, such a finding under Section 11 is not appealable. This was described as an anomaly by a bench of Justices R.F. Nariman, B.R. Gavai and Rishikesh Roy in the present case. The court made these observations while considering an SLP filed against an order of the single bench of the Delhi High Court, which appointed arbitrator under Section 11 Clause 6 of the Act. Considering the complexity of the facts, the top court observed that the question of validity of arbitration agreement has to be left to the arbitrator. The period of limitation for filing an application under Section 11 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act would be governed by Article 137 of the first schedule of the Limitation Act and will begin to run from the date when there is failure to appoint the arbitrator, the Supreme Court has held. In rare and exceptional cases where the claims are ex facie time-bound and it is manifest that there is no subsisting dispute, the court may refuse to make the reference, the bench of Justices Indu Malhotra and Ajay Rastogi has held. The Supreme Court has held that Rule 12 Clause 8, Subclause A of the Madhya Pradesh Chikitsa Shiksha Pravesh Niyam 2018 is unconstitutional as being violative of Article 14 of the Constitution of India. According to the said rule, vacant seats as a result of allotted candidates from mop-up round not taking admission or candidates resigning from admitted seats shall not be included in the college-level counselling being conducted after the mop-up round. The measure taken by the government is an excessive and unreasonable restriction, the bench of Justices L. Nageshwar Rao and Indira Banerjee observed. The Supreme Court has observed that its single bench, while hearing a transfer petition, cannot invoke power under Article 142 of the Constitution to pass a decree for dissolving a marriage by mutual consent. In this case, the husband and wife to a transfer petition before the Supreme Court filed a joint application for divorce by mutual consent. They requested the court to invoke jurisdiction under Article 142 and to dispense with the compliance of some of the procedural formalities and timeline contemplated in Section 13B of the Hindu Marriage Act. Justice Aniruddha Bose observed that a judge sitting singly has the power and jurisdiction to issue orders or pass decrees as specified in Article 142. However, this power or jurisdiction has to be confined to the four categories of cases referred to in the proviso to Order 6 Rule 1 of the 2013 rules only, or on subjects ancillary or directly related to them. The court therefore observed that the joint application ought to be dealt with by a bench comprising of two or more judges. The Supreme Court has held that prosecution by the investigating agency for offence punishable under Section 193 IPC for fabricating false evidence committed during the stage of investigation will not be barred under Section 195 subsection 1 clause B subclause 1 CRPC if the investigating agency has lodged a complaint or registered the case prior to commencement of proceedings and production of such evidence before the trial court. In such circumstances, the said offences would not be considered an offence committed in or in relation to any proceeding in any court for the purpose of the said section, the bench of Justices Mohan M. Shantanu Gaudar and Vineet Saran observed. The Supreme Court has reiterated that reservation category candidates who score more than the cut-off marks for the general category candidates have to be adjusted against general category based on the merit and not reserved category. A three-judge bench of Justices Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Dinesh Maheshwari and Rishikesh Roy was considering an appeal filed by the state of Tamil Nadu against the judgments of the Madras High Court. The issue related to the order of filling up of vacancies as per Section 27 Clause F of the Tamil Nadu Government Servants Conditions of Service Act 2016. The matter arose out of direct recruitment process to the post of postgraduate assistants and physical education directors, grade 1. The Supreme Court, while allowing an appeal, has reiterated that anticipatory bail, once granted, does not automatically end on the filing of a charge sheet. In this case, the Allahabad High Court had held that anticipatory bail granted to the accused by the trial court came to an end with the filing of the charge sheet and directed him to surrender and to apply for regular bail. Challenging this order, the accused approached the Apex Court, relying on a recent Constitution Bench judgment in Sushila Agarwal v. State. The bench of Justices N.V. Ramana, Suryakant and Aniruddha Bose noted that in the Sushila Agarwal case, it was observed the mere fact that an accused is given relief under Section 438 at one stage per se does not mean that upon filing of a charge sheet, he is necessarily to surrender or apply for regular bail. It was further held that mere subsequent event of the filing of a charge sheet cannot compel the accused to surrender and seek regular bail. The Supreme Court has observed that the National Company Law Tribunal has jurisdiction to adjudicate contractual disputes which arise solely from or which relate to the insolvency or the corporate debtor. However, for adjudication of disputes that arise divorce the insolvency of the corporate debtor, the resolution professional must approach the relevant competent authority. The bench of Justices D.Y. Chandrachud and M.R. Shah observed, while upholding the order of the NCLT, which stayed the termination by the Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam Limited of its power purchase agreement with Aston Field Solar Gujarat Private Limited. The Supreme Court has observed that while computing motor accident compensation, multiplier method has to be applied for future prospects and advancement in life and career. In this case, the Motor Accidents Claims Tribunal assessed the amount of compensation at Rs 21 lakh. The High Court, allowing the appeal filed by the insurance company, reduced the compensation to Rs 3,40,000. Before the Apex Court, the claimant appellant had urged that the present case being one of permanent disability of 40%, the multiplier method had to be applied to calculate compensation. The top court, referring to the judgments in Sandeep Khanduja and Erudhaya Priya's cases, observed that this issue is no more res integra and opined that multiplier method has to be applied for future prospects and advancement in life and career. The Supreme Court has observed that multiple complaints by the same party against the same accused in respect of the same incident is impermissible. In this case, on 5th August 2012, the complainant had filed a non-cognizable report alleging offences under sections 323, 504 and 506 of the Indian Penal Code. 6 years later, he filed a fresh complaint before the magistrate under section 200 of CRPC in respect of the very same incident. Magistrate issued process in this complaint. Sessions Judge and later the Allahabad High Court confirmed this order of the magistrate. While considering the appeal, the Supreme Court referred to observations made in Upkar Singh's case that any further complaint by the same complainant or others against the same accused subsequent to the registration of the case is prohibited under the code because an investigation in this regard would have already started, and further complaint against the same accused will amount to an improvement on the facts mentioned in the original complaint, hence will be prohibited under section 162 of the code. The Supreme Court has observed that even in case of a joint liability, in case of individual persons, a person other than a person who has drawn the check on an account maintained by him cannot be prosecuted for the offence under section 138 of the Negotiable Instruments Act. In this case, a lawyer had raised a professional bill for the legal work done by him to represent a couple. The check issued by the husband got dishonoured. The lawyer filed a complaint against both the husband and the wife under section 138 NI Act. According to him, it was the joint liability of both the accused to pay the professional bill that he had presented. The accused wife approached the High Court seeking to quash the criminal complaint filed against her, mainly on the ground that she was neither a signatory to the check dishonoured nor was there a joint bank account. This petition was dismissed by the High Court. The Apex Court allowed the appeal and quashed the complaint against the wife. A bench of Justices Indu Malhotra and Ajay Rastogi was considering an appeal against the judgment of the High Court of Himachal Pradesh, which had the accused guilty of offence under section 138 of the Negotiable Instruments Act. The court noted that the accused had only recorded her statement under section 313 of the code and had not adduced any evidence to rebut the presumption that the checks were issued for consideration. On the other hand, the complaints were filed by placing all documentary evidence in support of the complaint duly exhibited, and 3 witnesses in support thereof were examined, and was able to establish and discharge the burden of proof. The court further observed that there is a mandate of presumption of consideration in terms of the provisions of the Act, and the onus shifts to the accused on proof of issuance of check to rebut the presumption that the check was issued not for discharge of any debt or liability in terms of section 138 of the Act. The Supreme Court has observed that a blanket order of protection from arrest cannot be passed by the High Court while dismissing a petition filed under section 482 of the Code of Criminal Procedure seeking quashing of FIR. The issue raised in this appeal was whether the High Court of Andhra Pradesh was justified in passing a blanket direction restraining the police from arresting the accused, while at the same time having come to the conclusion that there was no merit in the petition for quashing under section 482. The Apex Court observed that such a direction by the High Court has the effect of impeding the course of the investigation and has no basis or justification in law. The court further noted that there was no justification given in the order of the High Court for issuing such a direction. In an important verdict, the Supreme Court on 12th March held that a government officer serving a state government or the central government cannot be appointed as the State Election Commissioner. The court passed this direction to ensure the independence of the State Election Commission. A bench headed by Justice R.F. Nariman issued directions under Article 142 of the Constitution of India to direct that all states and territories in India shall henceforth ensure that it has an independent State Election Commissioner as mandated under Article 243 Clause 4 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has reiterated that the National Company Law Tribunal or the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal cannot interfere with the commercial wisdom of the Committee of Creditors except when the limited scope under sections 30 and 31 of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Based on this well-settled principle, a three-judge bench comprising of Justices A.M. Khanvilkar, B.R. Gavai and Krishna Murari set aside an order of the NCLAT which had annulled the decision of COC to accept a resolution plan. That's all for this week. I hope you liked this video. Please share it if you think it could be of help to others. I'll see you again very soon. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss a video from Live Law.